It was a sunny Sunday morning in the quiet village of Umuno. The birds were singing, and children were chasing goats through the dusty paths. But in the middle of the village stood a giant building that looked like it didn't belong there, Fire River Prophetic Ministries, led by the famous pastor Chekudin Kemekanam, or as people called him, Papa Fire. People came from far and wide just to see him. They said he could heal the sick with just a wave of his hand. Some said he could raise the dead. Others whispered that he could see the name of your enemy just by looking into your eyes. By 7 a.m., the church was full. Villagers from Umuno and towns as far as Owerri, Aba, and Enugu packed into the building. Some even slept outside the gate the night before. In the front row sat a woman named Adiz, a secondary school teacher. She wasn't a loud type. She didn't fall down when people were praying. She didn't run around the church. She only watched. Quietly. Let somebody shout fire. Papa Fire's voice thundered through the microphone. Fire, the crowd shouted back. He wore a white flowing robe with golden patterns. His face glowed with oil, and his eyes were sharp like a hawk's. Behind him stood men with red suits and black shades, his personal prayer warriors. Then, a man in a wheelchair was pushed to the altar. Papa Fire, this man has not walked in 10 years, shouted one of the ushers. Papa Fire walked slowly to the man. He knelt beside him and whispered something in his ear. Suddenly, the man jumped up and began to run. The crowd screamed. Some fainted. Others cried. It was a miracle. But Adiz watched closely. She had seen that same man in a bus stop 2 weeks ago. He was standing, not in any wheelchair. Something felt wrong. After the service, people rushed to the altar, dropping money, phones, and gold chains. Papa Fire laughed and shouted, "Your season of overflow is here." As Adiz stepped out of the church, her heart was not at peace. Something was off. She didn't know yet, but that moment would change everything. Her quiet life as a teacher was about to become a dangerous mission to uncover the truth. That evening, Adiz sat on the wooden bench in front of her house, sipping a cup of hot kunu. The village was quiet now. The only sounds were chirping crickets and the soft hum of a generator far away. But her mind wasn't quiet. She kept seeing the man who stood from the wheelchair. She remembered his face clearly. It was the same man she saw at Abodo Junction, helping someone carry a bag of rice just 2 weeks ago. She brought out her phone and searched her photo gallery. Luckily, she had snapped some random pictures at Abodo Junction when she went to the market. Her hands trembled slightly as she zoomed in. There he was. The same man. Standing. Smiling. No wheelchair. Adiz's heart pounded. So, it was fake, she whispered to herself. She suddenly remembered something else. During the service, Papa Fire had called out the name of a young woman, saying, "Your mother's name is Neoma, and she died during childbirth." Everyone shouted. But Adiz knew the girl. Her name was Ifinanya, and her mother was very much alive. In fact, Neoma sold bread in front of Adiz's school every morning. How could Papa Fire be wrong, she whispered. The next Sunday, Adiz returned to the church, wearing a plain wrapper and simple blouse. She didn't want to draw attention. This time, she sat at the back, near the giant speaker. She took a notebook and pen, ready to observe everything. The service began. "Shout hallelujah!" Papa Fire roared. The crowd shook the hall with their voices. Then came another miracle. A woman was brought in, crying loudly, saying she had lost her voice for 3 years. Papa Fire waved his hand. "Be restored." Suddenly, she began to shout, "Thank you, Jesus," and danced around. The crowd went wild again. But Adiz noticed something strange. The woman winked at one of the cameramen before falling to the ground. Why would someone wink during deliverance? As she looked around, she noticed something else, a small room behind the altar with curtains. She hadn't seen it before. The curtain moved slightly, and she saw the shadow of someone talking on a phone. During service, Addis thought, "What is going on in there?" After church, Addis stayed behind and pretended to be praying. She saw the woman who was healed of her voice walk straight to the back, laughing with one of the church assistants. Addis' hands were shaking now. There was a secret behind these miracles. And she was going to find out what it was. For the next few days, Addis could hardly sleep. Her dreams were filled with strange images: fire on the altar, people shouting, and Papa Fire standing inside a river with a crown on his head. She woke up sweating every night. Something was not right about that church. That Wednesday, she decided to attend the midweek deliverance service at Fire River Prophetic Ministries. This time, she wore a long scarf that partly covered her face and big round glasses. She didn't want to be recognized. She sat quietly near the window at the back. "Today is your day of deliverance," Papa Fire shouted. The crowd screamed back in excitement. He wore a new robe, black with golden embroidery, and a matching staff carved with the shape of a lion's head. As he walked down the aisle, people touched the edge of his garment, crying. Then he stopped in the middle of the hall and raised a small bottle. "This," he said, "is the oil of angelic fire. Whoever buys it shall see miracles. It is N50,000 per bottle." People rushed forward. One woman removed her earrings and dropped them at the altar. Another man handed over a bag of Gary and said it was all he had. Addis' eyes narrowed. She watched one of the assistants take the bottle backstage. She quickly stood and followed quietly outside, hiding behind a side wall. She saw the assistant enter the mysterious room behind the altar, the same one with the moving curtain. A few minutes later, the man came out again holding more bottles. Addis waited until the service ended. She greeted some women on her way out and circled to the back of the church. The small room now had a padlock, but the window was partly open. She tiptoed closer and peeked inside. Her eyes widened. There were cartons of oil bottles on the floor. In the middle of the room was a plastic basin filled with water, salt, and red powder. A young man was mixing it with a stick and filling the bottles. Addis gasped silently. The oil was fake. It wasn't imported from Jerusalem or touched by angels. It was colored water. Suddenly, she heard footsteps. She dropped quickly beneath the window, heart beating fast. The assistant passed by but didn't see her. After a moment, she slipped away quietly. She needed proof. She needed more. Because nobody would believe her without it. That Friday night, Omuno village was quiet. Most villagers were fast asleep, except Addis. She sat alone on her bamboo chair, eyes fixed on her small jotter, where she had written everything she'd seen at Fire River Prophetic Ministries. Fake healings. False prophecies. Oil made from salt and red powder. But still, she had no proof that could stand against Papa Fire. "Everyone loves him too much," she whispered. "They won't believe me unless I catch him in the act." Just then, her cousin came, a playful teenage boy, ran into the compound. "Auntie Addis," he whispered loudly. "Come and see something." She stood quickly. "What is it?" "Papa Fire's compound. I was playing football near the back road. I saw something strange. People in white robes entering his backyard. But they weren't normal people. Their feet didn't touch the ground." Addis blinked. "What did you say?" "They were floating." She grabbed her scarf and followed Nkem quietly through the bush path that led behind Papa Fire's mansion. The moonlight lit the way. They crawled on all fours through dry leaves and hidden grass, until they reached a small clearing behind a big mango tree. From there, they could see Papa Fire's backyard. What they saw made Addis' heart freeze. 6 figures in glowing white garments stood in a circle around Papa Fire. Their faces were hidden behind white cloth. In the center of the circle, Papa Fire knelt down, holding a large clay pot with smoke rising from it. One of the figures raised his hand. "Icon of the deep waters," he chanted. "Take this blood as offering." Papa Fire sliced a small goat beside him. Its blood poured into the clay pot. The air shimmered as if the wind itself was watching. Nkem grabbed Adi's hand in fear. Then something worse happened. As the blood sizzled, Papa Fire's body began to change. His skin shimmered and dark patches appeared like scales. His eyes turned green. He fell forward, groaning as the other figures lifted him gently. He didn't look human anymore. Adi's knees went weak. She had just witnessed something unholy. She turned to Nkem. "Let's go. Now." But as they crept back, Nkem accidentally stepped on a dry stick. Crack! The figures turned. "Who's there?" one of them shouted in a voice that sounded like thunder and wind combined. Adis and Nkem ran. They ran through the bush, breath ragged, heart racing, barely making it home. Inside her room, Adis locked the door and sat on the floor. "This is not just fake miracles anymore," she whispered. "Papa Fire is not a normal man." Now she knew. But what could she do with this terrifying secret? By morning, Adi's eyes were swollen. She hadn't slept at all. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw Papa Fire's green eyes and those white-robed spirits floating like ghosts in the night. Nkem had gone silent too. He didn't touch his breakfast. He only stared at the ground, biting his fingernail. Adis knew it was time to dig deeper, not just with her eyes, but with her hands. She had to go where no one else dared to go, Papa Fire's office. That afternoon, when the sun was highest in the sky and the church was nearly empty, she wore a blue wrapper and carried a bag of oranges. She told the gatekeeper she was dropping a gift for the man of God. The gatekeeper smiled. "Our Papa loves oranges. You're blessed, sister." She walked in slowly, heart thudding. She entered the side hallway and reached the locked office door. She looked left, then right. No one. With a pin from her headscarf and a trick she learned from her brother back in university, she picked the lock. Click. The door opened. Inside was a rich room with red carpet, leather chairs, and a massive wooden desk. A glowing photo of Papa Fire hung on the wall behind the desk, with him standing beside 3 foreign white men in robes. Adis opened drawers, scanning quickly. Paper after paper. Names of donors. Amounts given. None of it was helpful. Then she opened a small black file folder at the bottom drawer. Inside were strange documents. A list of church members' full names and birthdays. Spiritual readings with codes like W1, C4, JX beside their names. And worst of all, pictures of people, some looking sick, some crying, and some lying in hospital beds. She flipped one paper and saw something that made her gasp. Her own name. Adis Okoli, code, C3, spirit too strong. Monitor closely. She dropped the file. They've been watching me. Suddenly, something fell from the shelf behind her. She turned slowly. It was a mirror. A small round mirror with carvings around the edge. It looked normal, but as she bent to pick it up, her reflection didn't move. Her face in the mirror just stared. Then, slowly, blood began to drip down the mirror's surface. She screamed and dropped it. The door burst open. 2 men in red suits stormed in. Who are you? What are you doing here? Adis' mind raced. She grabbed her bag and ran. They chased her through the hallway, but she slipped past the front gate before they could grab her. Outside, the sun was hot, but her body felt cold. She had found something real. Something dangerous. And now, they knew she was watching. For 2 days, Adis didn't step out of her compound. She kept her curtains closed and her doors locked. Every knock on the gate made her jump. She didn't know whether it was villagers coming to visit, or someone from the church. She replayed what she saw in her head again and again, the blood on the mirror, the fire with her name, and those men in red suits chasing her. She now understood that Papa Fire wasn't just faking miracles. He was monitoring people's souls. But she still didn't understand how. Was it charms? Was it spirit? Was it both? Then something strange happened. That night, Nkem, her cousin, began to talk in his sleep. She heard a strange sound coming from his room around 2 a.m. At first, she thought he was just snoring. But then she heard him whispering clearly, "Papa Fire. I will not eat it, don't give me the snake." Adi's eyes flew open. She rushed into his room. Nkem was standing on the bed, sweating heavily. His body shook like he was in a battle. He kept whispering, "I don't want to drink the blood. Papa, stop. Papa, please." Adis shouted, "Nkem, wake up." He opened his eyes, gasping for breath. "Auntie. Auntie, they came. Inside my dream." She held him tightly. "Who came?" He looked at her with fear. "Papa Fire. And those white-robed people. They called me by my name and said I must eat something. They opened my mouth and brought a long black snake, but I refused. That's why I was running." Adi's heart broke. They were attacking him, spiritually. She knew this wasn't normal anymore. These were not just rituals, these were deep things, dark things. The next morning, Adis went to her friend Ngozi, a nurse in the village health center. She trusted her. Adis told her everything. Ngozi didn't laugh. She didn't argue. She simply nodded and said, "I have something to show you." She brought out an old diary. It belonged to her late aunt, Nurse Onika, who used to work as a cleaner in Papa Fire's church years ago. Adis opened the diary, flipping through pages until she stopped at a line that said, "They call it the mirror circle. Every month, members with spiritual codes are summoned in their dreams. Those who resist, fall sick. Those who obey, become workers. Or worse." Adis swallowed hard. She now had a name for what they were doing, the mirror circle. And her name was already on the list. By the following Sunday, Adis' heart was no longer filled with fear, it was filled with purpose. She now knew what she was up against, a dark spiritual operation called the mirror circle, and Papa Fire was the high priest. But she still needed more evidence. She wanted to know how they controlled people, how they selected victims, and what happened to those who obeyed. So, she did the unthinkable. She returned to the church. But this time, she disguised herself as a new member. She wore long braids with borrowed glasses and changed her voice slightly. She even gave a fake name, Chika Olubube. Inside the church, everything looked the same, bright lights, loud music, worshippers dancing in colorful clothes. Papa Fire climbed the stage with energy. "My children, today is special. Because today, we are launching the Disciples in Red program." The crowd cheered. He pointed at 6 men standing behind him, all dressed in sharp red suits with golden embroidery. "These men have been handpicked by the Spirit. They shall go house to house, healing, blessing, and protecting this village. But," Papa Fire paused dramatically, "they can only visit homes that purchase the blood seal sticker." A banner rolled down, "Seal your door, N25000 only." Adis' jaw tightened. It was another money trap, a trick to enter people's homes. After the service, she watched carefully. The men in red suits began taking notes of addresses. Some whispered into small walkie-talkies. Others asked strange questions. "What dreams have you been having? Do you sleep well at night? Has Papa Fire appeared in your dream before?" Adis moved quietly toward the back office, pretending to look for the toilet. But then something caught her eye. She saw a young girl, not more than 14, shaking uncontrollably near the altar, surrounded by 2 of the red suit men. "She's been chosen," one whispered. The other nodded. "The marine spirit is strong in this one." They covered her head with a cloth and began chanting. Adis quickly pulled out her phone and pressed record. Suddenly, the girl collapsed and began speaking in a strange voice. "I serve the Queen of the Waters. I shall obey. I shall carry the mirror." People clapped. They thought it was the Holy Spirit. But Adis knew better. As she slowly backed away, a hand grabbed her shoulder. She turned and came face to face with one of the red suit men. He smiled coldly. "Sister Chika, or should I say, Sister Adis." Her heart stopped. They knew. And she was no longer safe inside those walls. Adis' breath caught in her throat. The red suit man's grip on her shoulder tightened slightly, his smile never fading. "We've been watching you," he whispered. "Papa Fire says you're gifted, but stubborn." Her eyes darted around. The crowd was still singing. No one noticed her danger. Her heart pounded like a drum. She forced a nervous laugh. "Oh, it's a misunderstanding, my name is Chika." He leaned closer. "Don't run." But she did. Adis twisted her arm free and dashed toward the nearest exit. Church members looked up in confusion as she bombed through the aisle, knocking over chairs and bags. The red suit man shouted, "Stop her." 2 others chased after her, but Adis was fast, fear gave her wings. She reached the side gate, slipped through a narrow gap in the fence, and vanished into the bushes behind the church. She didn't stop running until she reached the river path behind the market. She collapsed behind an abandoned kiosk, gasping for air. Her hands shook as she pulled out her phone. It was still recording. The footage was still there, the chanting, the possessed girl, the coded talk about the marine spirit. She clutched the phone tightly. "This is my proof." Just then, she heard rustling. She froze. A shadow moved past the trees, tall, slim, walking like someone searching. She covered her mouth with her hand. Then silence. The footsteps faded. She waited another 5 minutes before creeping back toward the road. Instead of going home, she went to the only place she felt safe now, Ngozi's compound. Ngozi opened the door and gasped when she saw Adis. "You're bleeding." Adis looked down. Her leg was scraped from the fence, her wrapper torn. But she didn't care. "They know," she said. "They know I'm not Chika." Ngozi locked the door quickly and pulled her inside. Adis showed her the video. Ngozi watched quietly, mouth slightly open. When it ended, she stood and walked to the corner of the room. She lifted a small prayer mat and pulled out a plastic bag. Inside were 3 mini voice recorders, an old Android phone, and a pen camera. "My Aunt Onika used to collect gadgets for protection," she whispered. "We'll use them." Adis' eyes widened. "You believe me?" "I believed you from the start," Ngozi said. "Now we fight with wisdom." "You'll go back." "What?" "Yes. But this time, you won't go alone." From behind the curtain, another woman stepped out. Adis gasped. It was Ifeoma, Papa Fire's former secretary, who vanished months ago. Everyone thought she had traveled. But here she was, eyes dark with secrets, voice calm and low. "I escaped," Ifeoma said. "I know things. And if you're ready to finish this, I'll help you." Adis could barely breathe. "Ifeoma, you're alive." Ifeoma nodded slowly, her eyes steady. "I escaped through the river. The day I left, I was supposed to become one of them. But I heard things. I saw things." Adis sat down. Her legs felt weak. "Why didn't you tell anyone?" "I tried," Ifeoma said, voice shaking slightly. "But each time I told someone, they fell sick. One woman even died in her sleep." Since then, I stayed quiet, hiding. Ngozi looked between the two women. If we are going to expose Papa Fire, we must be careful. They don't only work with physical power. They use spiritual ones too. Adis whispered, then we fight with both. Ifeoma reached into her bag and pulled out a rough map drawn on an old notebook page. This is the plan of the church building, she said. There's a hidden trapdoor under the altar. Adis' eyes widened. A trapdoor? Yes. That's where the real secrets are kept. There's a staircase that leads underground. I've only been there once, but I saw jars, charms, bones, and mirrors placed in a circle. I even saw a photo of Papa Fire, standing beside a giant serpent with glowing red eyes. Adis swallowed hard. Ifeoma continued, they keep their real power down there. And they call it the womb of the river. It's where new disciples are anointed. If we can record what's there, we can expose them completely. Ngozi stepped forward. We'll go at night. I'll distract the guards at the gate. Adis, Ifeoma, you go through the children's class window. It stays loose. Once inside, sneak under the altar. Adis hesitated. What if we don't come back? Ngozi looked her in the eye. Then the world will know we tried. But I believe we will. That night, the village sky was heavy with clouds. Thunder rumbled in the distance. Dressed in dark wrappers and headscarves, Adis and Ifeoma approached the church quietly. Ngozi had already gone ahead with a basket of yams, pretending to make a donation. The gate opened. The guard let her in. 2 minutes later, she began shouting, "Please come and help me. I'm fainting." The guards ran to her. At that moment, Adis and Ifeoma dashed to the side, slipped through the open children's class window, and entered the church. The air was still. The lights were off, but the moonlight spilled through the glass, casting ghostly shapes on the floor. They crawled toward the altar. Just as Ifeoma had said, a small piece of carpet near the pulpit had a faint wooden line beneath it. Adis gently lifted the rug. There it was. A square-shaped wooden door with a rusted handle. They pulled it open, and a cold wind rushed out. A narrow stairway disappeared into the darkness below. Adis turned on the camera pen and clipped it to her scarf. Then, together, they began to descend. 1 step. 2 steps. The deeper they went, the colder the air became. Strange smells filled their noses, ash, decay, and something like burnt palm oil. And then they heard it. A voice. Low. Chanting. Coming from below. The deeper Adis and Ifeoma descended into the underground chamber, the more the air changed. It was no longer just cold, it felt alive, like something was breathing in the walls. The chanting grew louder. Strange symbols glowed faintly on the stone as they reached the bottom of the stairs. At the end of the hallway, there was a large iron door. It had carvings of fish, snakes, and human hands reaching upward. Adis' voice trembled. Are you ready? Ifeoma nodded. Let's finish this. They pushed the door gently. It creaked open. And there it was. A massive underground room, lit by candles arranged in a perfect circle. In the middle, a deep pool of water glowed red, and above it, a mirror hung from the ceiling, spinning slowly. Kneeling around the pool were 9 men and women in red robes, heads bowed, chanting. And in the center stood Papa Fire. But he didn't look like the joyful man on the pulpit. He wore a robe made of snakeskin, his eyes glowing green, his voice echoing in a strange, watery language. He raised a staff and touched the water. It hissed and boiled. The mirror circle shall rise again, he proclaimed. Adis pulled out the phone and pressed record. Then the mirror began to spin faster, and stopped. Suddenly, the reflection in the mirror changed. It showed Adis' face. Papa Fire stopped. He turned around slowly, eyes narrowing. Who is here? Adis grabbed Ifeoma's hand. "Run!" They turned and ran back through the corridor, the echo of footsteps behind them. As they climbed the stairs, the iron door behind them slammed shut. They burst out into the church, panting. But standing at the altar was Ngozi, holding a Bible high. She began to pray loudly, every hidden thing done in darkness, be exposed by the light of God. Suddenly, a loud crash came from beneath them. The ground trembled. The trapdoor burst open, and water rushed out, dark, thick water that smelled of blood and oil. Papa Fire screamed from below. "No! They've seen too much." But it was too late. A bolt of lightning flashed through the church roof, striking the altar. Then, silence. When Adis opened her eyes, the church was empty. No candles. No red robes. The trapdoor was gone, as if it had never existed. Weeks later, Adis' video went viral. National news picked it up. Papa Fire's church was shut down. Members wept, confused, ashamed. Many gave testimonies of how they had lost everything: money, family, peace. Adis, Ngozi, and Ifeoma became symbols of truth in their village. And as for Papa Fire, he was never found. But the mirror circle had been broken. And the light of truth had won. I hope the story was enjoyable to you. If so, do give the video a like. Tell your loved ones and friends about it. Don't forget to leave a comment, subscribe to the channel, and activate the notification bell for more captivating stories like this one. Goodbye.